life is happening for us. We're an active participant.
Yeah.
Our tiny little choices all throughout the day, every single day, is what creates our life. Welcome back to the Fast to Faith podcast. I hope you had an amazing holiday season and you are feeling super pumped for 2025. I really want this to be the year that you have massive shifts, not only in your health, but in your relationships, in your finances, in your life. I promise you, if you focus on shifting your health, it will spill into those other areas. That is how it works. And we have an amazing guest that I have been very blessed to be connected with. This was definitely a God nod bringing us together. I'm really excited to introduce you to Kirsten because she's a fabulous woman and you should be following her. Kirsten is an Emmy Award-winning certified health coach and growth strategist, pairing her trainings in wellness with a faith-filled life. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. We're going to talk today about stress. I know that can sound like a eye roll topic. We're going to talk about it in a totally different way today. We're going to talk about rest, how to rest in God, and how to hand things over to Him in a practical way so that you can sleep better, you can have more energy, you can be more accomplished, and really take back control of your health. So I'm excited for this episode. Let me know what you think. Here we go. Well, welcome, Kirsten, to the Fast to Faith podcast.
So thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, this is an important conversation we need to have because there are so many women our age who are struggling and they just think that they have to put up with the hand that life dealt them, right? And I've been watching you just transition into this new stage of your life, new career, new path, all of it. And it's so inspiring. So I need you to share this with everybody listening because it's so amazing.
No, I'm so excited to share it. It's been a quite a transition going from fear to excitement and back again and marrying the worlds of faith and fitness. And I'm just thrilled to be able to share.
Was there like one specific incident that really catapulted you in this direction, or was it just something smoldering inside of you for a while that finally bubbled up to the top?
Well, always in my 13 years as a host at QVC, and before that, I was in broadcast news, faith was always top of my life. That's the number one reason for being. And I always asked the Lord where He wanted me and how He was going to use me. And when I thought about moving networks, like I did from NBC to ABC and then over to QVC, it was always, where do you want to use me, God? And He had been telling me for well over a decade that He was using me at QVC. I had a wonderful platform to be able to speak to women on, and men, but mostly women,
Yeah.
on faith and fitness. I had a lifestyle brand that of sweatshirts and Bibles and crosses and fitness equipment and things like that. And He wasn't only using me as an outward message to more than 1 million viewers, but also inside a corporation. Because I think that's very important when people are trying to figure out what their purpose is it's not exactly what it looks like and where you are. You could be used in a smaller situation inside. So I was being used within the corporation as well with my colleagues. But a couple of things happened. My mother got dementia early. We expect that she was probably around 59. And we know now from research that it probably started in her 30s, right? She also had a lot of health issues. She had cancer 3 times. She had endometriosis, all of these things. And for 12 years, we fought that with her. And I say fight, but probably not the right word, since it wasn't a beautiful fighting of it. She kind of gave into it right away. So she died young, at least in my opinion, at 72. And when we went into the doctor when she was about 60 and she had a brain scan, and I remember sitting there in the doctor's office and it was very sterile. She was quietly crying because she had been through a whole bunch of cognitive testing. And he put up an image of her brain and he said, "Do you see those dark spots up there? Many of those are likely a result of stress." And I had 2 infant baby girls at the time, whole nother story. And I remember looking down at them and thinking, wow, this is somewhat preventable. And I don't want this to happen to them. I don't want them losing the most important person in their life at the most important time of theirs, which is where I was at that time. She never really was there for me when I had babies, when I went through infertility. She wouldn't be a grandmother in any meaningful sense of the word. So I reorganized kind of my priorities in life. I went back to school for nutrition, thinking that nutrition was going to be what was going to keep everybody healthy and keep me healthy. And I started seeing that stress was probably the biggest problem in our society right now and leading to so many different problems. So around the same time, I had been convicted that me and my family needed to go on a mission trip. And we prayed on it for years and years and years. And finally in 2023, we took 3.5 months and we moved down to Mexico to be missionaries. And I was already kind of in this health and wellness space, but being down there and seeing poverty and need, and we were working at a Christian medical clinic, but seeing that people were so much less stressed out. I mean, even in a place where they should be so much more full of stress. All of this came together in the middle of 2023, and I really felt the Lord saying that I needed to move full-time into this space. Not that QVC wasn't a wonderful place, but I needed to really recommit my life to serving women and helping them get out of stress, and do that with a slant on faith. So faith and fitness.
Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you for leaning in and being obedient to what he was calling you to do. I feel like so often we just stick with the fear and we stay stuck because we feel the nudge, but we're too afraid to step into it. So bravo to you for stepping into it. You already are changing so many lives because of that. And that is really what we're called to do, right?
It is really. And I remember going down to be a missionary in Baja California it's called La Misión was the valley that we were in. And it was a Christian medical clinic. And I remember like having these very ego-filled dreams of, oh, we're gonna help so many people and change lives. And I'm going to, hold the sick baby, all those things that your brain creates, right? And actually, when we were down there, the Lord was calling me to serve one person at a time. It was spend time with an elderly couple as I drove them to the nearest hospital, which was 2 hours away. Spend the entire day with one person. It was serve one nurse at the clinic who was helping other people. And that really changed my idea of how we serve others, because sometimes we feel like we have to hit everybody, especially women in ministry, right? And church building and things like that. Oh, we want to get as many people as possible. But sometimes the Lord is calling us to just serve one. And so as I've gone into this new chapter of my life, for sure, I want to be able to spread the word of releasing stress and finding rest to as many people as possible. But oftentimes, the Lord is calling me to spend time with one person at a time.
Oh my gosh, that's such an important point. I hope everyone who's listening is really understanding this. And I have dealt with this on my journey as well. I create programs and I want to help hundreds or thousands of women. And sometimes he brings me 10 or 20 and my ego is hurt. I'm bruised. I want to do something huge and big. And he's like, I need to see that I can trust you with this little amount and that you're still going to give it your all and still pour into these women the same way you would 200 women. And those times, those lessons have been humbling to my ego and reminding me that this is not for my glory. This is for God's glory. And that's a painful pill to swallow sometimes, isn't it? But good for you. I love that because so many of us, we just get discouraged. I know I've been discouraged in the past when my big lofty ideas of what I want to do are not what God has planned for me. And I've learned to start saying, your will, not mine, your will, not mine. I trust you, and whatever lesson I need to learn, let me learn it now so I can keep moving forward, right?
Absolutely. That trust piece and getting out of the way, because his plan is always better. I always say that. His plan is always better. It might not look like mine, but it's always better. And the piece that I really had to adopt over the last few years was no matter what happens, I have plans, and I think it's great to have goals, and I think it's great to have positive thinking, and I think it's great to have an idea of where you want to go, but also being able to surrender all of that and understand that even if it doesn't go as you have planned, his peace can surpass all of that. He can give you that peace in a failed business. He can make you feel perfectly happy about that if he wants to. He can give you peace in the loss of a loved one, or in my case, in the passing of my mom. He can give you all of that peace, even if it doesn't turn out the way that you want it to turn out.
Yeah. Absolutely. You are focusing on stress as one of the main drivers of all of our issues. And I couldn't agree more. I think that we as women, especially, we live so stressed out in a way our grandmothers and great grandmothers never did. Like, my grandma would think I was crazy for doing all the stuff that I'm doing. I'm about to turn 50. I should be slowing down. I should be, knitting things and chilling. And yet I'm running multiple companies and starting new projects. And I have teenage children. And like, my life is busy. And so I would love for you to just talk about how busyness can be just a distraction and keeping us stuck, and how we can rest in our work, in our efforts. Where is that balance? How do we figure that piece out?
The Lord is not going to shout through your busyness.
Yes, amen.
He's not. He is not going to compete with the noise that you have created. And first and foremost, the reason that we need to reduce the stress, even take the health piece aside, which I truly believe in my research is so important to meaningful longevity, not just longevity, but living a long and healthy life. What's most important is if you reduce the stress, you'll be able to hear the Lord better. Amen. And that's what we need to be able to do, is hear him, because you're asking, Lord, what do I do? And how do I deal with this situation? And what do I do with, first of all, you said all those things that you're busy with, and the teens is the one that like hit me the most, because they're in my life right now, I think are the hardest. But how do I deal with my kids and all of this? But you're so busy trying to control it and manipulate it and make it all work out. You're not stopping and resting and listening enough for him to tell you what to do. So you have to cut down on the busyness. Something that you said was so important. We're so different from how we were 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. It used to be that women, I'm 47, you're almost 50. At this point, we were way past childbearing age. Our kids were probably gone already. We were helping take care of maybe, elderly parents, sure, but we were kind of past doing all of the big business stuff. We had more time for rest because, as you know, and I've learned a lot from you, we can't metabolize stress the way that we used to in our 30s. So our bodies and our society were slowing down. So in order for us to be able to do the businesses and continue to be able to do what the Lord has called us to do, first and foremost, making sure that you're hearing him right and that you're lockstep with him, we have to be able to put in those breaks. That's why I talk so much about things like NSDR, non-sleep deep rest, and reorganizing your life to have less stress. For me, it started with writing a book, and I was like, okay, it's going to be 20 different ways to reorganize your life to have less stress. Health science meets biblical truth. I knew that was going to be the premise for it. But it kind of started being this like, okay, here's your checklist. You should exercise like this. You should eat like this. You should, cold plunge, because that's a good stress during these times of the year cycle. But I realized that I can give you a checklist. I can take you through all of these things. But the biggest barrier is the mindset. At a 47, at 50, at 55, we are still holding stress as a badge of honor. Mm-hmm. That's how our society is created. We think, oh, we'll rest when we're dead. Oh, I'm only worth something if I can barely make it to the end of the day and I have to have venti coffees in the morning and then alcohol at night to get myself to sleep. So my whole platform these days Sure, I'll give you the tips, but it is helping women change the mindset.
That's why you and I connected so quickly, because literally that is my entire premise. You have got to transform your mind in order to transform your body. And what I have found is if I start my day with God, listening to Him, asking Him to walk with me for the day, I don't get carried away by the stress. I don't let it consume me and overwhelm me and drive my decisions. I really just want whoever's listening to understand, like, God wants to be in a daily relationship, going through all this stuff with you, making those little decisions throughout the day. When you hand that over, then you don't have to stress. You don't have to worry, right?
And constantly hand it over.
Yes.
I love
because we take it back.
We do. It's
right
so
back.
interesting, especially like we're two very faith-filled women, and I speak at churches and there's rooms full of faith-filled women, and we wear shirts that say faith over fear. And, I've made these bags that say surrender, and we're like, we're giving it all to God. We're laying it down. And we say that. Then we go right back to our life where we're like planning and manipulating, trying to make it our way. It's a practice. Nobody wins for best human or best Christian. It's consistently a practice. So like you said, it starts with giving your first, just like it says in the Bible for tithing. We're not just talking about your money. We're talking about giving the first of your day, whatever that means to you. If your day's upside down because of shift work, it's the first. You give him that time first. And then throughout the day, checking in. Lord, what do you want me to know about this situation? I lost my keys. Help me find them before you go rummaging for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Take that as it pertains to our health and our physical body, because women are doing all the stuff, right? They're watching all the influencers. Now they're increasing their protein and they're doing whatever's on trend right now, and they're still feeling stuck and frustrated. What would you say has been the biggest needle mover for you when it comes to getting healthy, getting your clients to get their health back on track? Is it starting the day with God?
I think first having that relationship with the Lord. There's some statistic out there about how many people identify as Christian or Catholic. And I think that you can identify as, then you can also be a person who has that relationship, who has that intimate one-on-one vulnerability with the Lord. I think a lot of people that I talk to say, yeah, I'm a Christian, I've got faith, spiritual, but maybe they've been raised in a religion where you're taught to fear the Lord, or, oh, my problems aren't big enough for the Lord to even really worry about me, right? There's people
That's a good one. Let's talk about that, because I think there's this idea that you can only ask God for dire stuff, like when your life is completely falling apart and you've been diagnosed with cancer. But don't you agree that He wants to walk with you in the little stuff all throughout the day, like finding your keys, like you said? Like, let's talk about that, because I think that's a big shift. We leave God in church on Sunday. We put Him in a box that we've designed. We think that the relationship is supposed to look a certain way, and it should be totally different than that.
Yeah, first, I want you to deconstruct whatever it is that you were trained in the past. If you did grow up in a Catholic church, and there's no judgment against that. We were in the Catholic Church for a very, very long time. My husband was raised Catholic. My kids went through First Communion. But I know a lot of people in the Catholic Church believe that they aren't allowed to go to the Lord on their own, or go to God on their own. They have to go through somebody else. Or they've always felt like they're being judged. And there's a lot of shame around that. So first, you have to deconstruct that part of it. And let me be somebody in the ministry, in the church, who apologizes to you if you've had those types of situations, or you've been burned by religion in the past. It's very similar in faith as it is in doctors. You might go to one and be like, oh, they couldn't help, and then you give up. Or psychologists getting help. If you need therapy, you go to one therapist, they don't work, and you give up. You have to go over and over and over again. You have to find the one that works for you. And I think the same is true of faith. You might have not had a great relationship with the church or a pastor or a priest in the past, please come back and try. So once we get through that part of it, I want you to imagine the Lord, our Jesus, God, the Trinity, as how you feel about a child that you love more than anybody else. It might be your own child, or if you're not a parent, it might be a niece or a nephew or somebody like that, who no matter what they do, you will love them. Truly, the worst thing you can think of, you will still love them. And no matter what they do through the day, you're just waiting for them to invite you in. I mean, I really feel that way right now with teenage girls specifically. I feel like that. I'm like, pick me, play with me, choose me, come talk to me. Like, I don't care what it is. You want me to buy you something? You want me to clean up after you? Just come to me because I love you so much and I want to spend time with you. That's how the Lord is. You don't have to come to him if it's something big, or you don't have to hide from him if you messed up. Just go to him. He's just waiting, just like you're waiting for that child to come to you.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Like, that's literally what I'm thinking when I see my 14-year-old daughter. Like, oh, do I get to be a part of this conversation? Do I get to drive you somewhere? I just want to be with you. I just want to be in your presence and feel your energy. And that literally is what God wants. And here's the truth. We have free will, right? We get to choose whether we have an active relationship with him or not. He's loving us, but are we loving him? Are we inviting him into our daily stuff? And for me, that has just shifted everything, every single aspect of my life. And watching the women go through my programs, embracing this way of living, it just fills my heart because it really is that powerful. It will change your life, not just your health, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And once you start to have that consistent dialogue with the Lord, giving him that first time in the morning and then going to him for everything. And a lot of women, as you know, Dr. Tabatha, deal with anxiety. And that's very hormonal. It's very as we get older. And that's a big one that I hear. Oh, well, I'm just anxious and I'm uncomfortable. Like, God can't deal. Like, it's no big deal for him. So why would I even go to him in that? Go to him in that. Every second, every feeling, continue. And the more time you spend and the more time you push past that busyness and that controlling and you just surrender and let him come to you, the easier time you'll have hearing him. That's something that I hear a lot from women as well. How do I know if I'm hearing the Lord? How do I know if what he's telling me? And it takes practice. It takes being still and silent and surrendering and asking him, not just praying to him, I would like this, I want that, but asking him what he wants to tell you.
Yes. And then when you finally recognize him answering your prayers and talking to you and showing you the path, maybe a good friend calls you up after you say, God, I'm just so lonely. I need someone to reach out to me. And someone reaches out to you, acknowledge that. Give him the glory. Like, thank you, God, for answering my prayers. I feel like so many times we get our prayers answered, but we don't stop to say thank you. We just move on to the next prayer request, and we
Wow, so true.
skip that gratitude piece. So I would encourage women to just get into this attitude of gratitude. I start my day rattling off everything I'm thankful for before my feet hit the floor. Like, to me, that is really powerful as well. And that has helped me sleep better, helped me get rid of my heart palpitations in the evening. Like, dear Lord, please just let me get deep restorative sleep. And then in the morning, thank you for giving me that amazing sleep. It really does work. I mean, yeah, progesterone helps, but it's not the end all be all, right?
Yeah, it's so true. I would love to know, how is your sleep? Are there things that you do? Because that's one of my biggest things for women. That's the first place I start when I'm helping women get over stress, is start with sleep. How are you with sleep?
It's so good. It's amazing.
So great.
Here's one thing I realized. I went through a painful divorce over a year ago, and I realized that I was having very disrupted sleep. Someone was snoring and waking me up multiple times a night. And so I think that a lot of women are dealing with that, and either they're not aware or they're afraid to have that conversation with their partner, like, hey, you're really disrupting my sleep. And that's why I'm waking up angry and biting people's heads off in the morning because I am exhausted. Like, I would wake up angry when that alarm of his went off at 4:30 in the morning because I was just getting into a deep sleep and then it was interrupted. And it was really hard for me to function during the day. So I would invite anybody to like have these conversations with your partners if this is an issue. And I don't encourage anybody to like sleep in separate bedrooms, but maybe you need to wear earplugs. Maybe your partner needs to get evaluated for sleep apnea. Or maybe you yourself are snoring and waking yourself up and you're not realizing it. So getting like an Aura ring or some kind of evaluation to see what does your sleep look like. I think that has a huge impact on it. And I know for myself, I was overheating myself trying to sleep. I would be very cold because I have a thyroid issue. And so I would like wear the socks and the sweatshirts and the weighted blanket and all the things. And then I would wake up sweating profusely. So trying to regulate my body temperature in a better way, drinking warm water or warm tea before I go to bed and not putting on 50 layers so that I don't wake up hot and sweaty. That was really helpful. But honestly, asking God to help me with this was the biggest game changer. I also did that with my bowels. I have a lifelong history of irritable bowel syndrome. I was in this long stage of constipation. My thyroid wasn't well. My hormones were shifting with menopause, all the things. And I was like, dear God, just like help me wake up and evacuate and have a nice bowel movement every morning and like help me with these things. And I swear to him, like it all shifted. It was so beautiful. So I want to hear your tips and your tricks because you are an awesome coach. And like, what is your go-to for amazing sleep?
No, I love all of that. And isn't it amazing once you get into that good sleep, especially if you've gone through a period of time where you don't have it and you think that it's gone, it's like everything is right in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just changes everything. It's the thing that I'm most focused on. To the point probably that sometimes I have to like take off my ring and stop looking at it because I can get a little obsessed with it. So there's that as well. Let's go first to what you were talking about with the whole gratitude thing, like waking up and saying what you're grateful for. And before you go to bed, what you're grateful for. There are studies that show that people who have a gratitude practice like, live longer. I mean, it's that important. I list 5 things that I'm grateful for and I write them down every night. And sometimes they're the same things, but I try to be really specific about what happened during the day. Like I try to come back to, okay, what happened today that I'm grateful for? But I recently read something about how your brain really starts to remember and get into a routine when it looks at your bed. So if you're somebody who has had a bad relationship with sleep for a very long time, you toss and turn. You wake up in the middle of the night, you can't go back to sleep, you've got anxiety or worrying, whatever it might be happening, your brain will go into your bedroom, look at your bed and be like, oh, okay, I know what it's time to do now. It's time to sleep for a couple hours, then wake up and be really upset. It starts to learn that. So you really have to kind of talk yourself back out of it and retrain your brain. And part of the way you do that is journaling before bed. And journaling in a specific way. Sure, write down the 5 things that you're thankful for. And let me put this out there, journaling not on something that has blue light emitting because that's a problem for sleep. Yes. So journaling on paper or a paper white if you use one of those. And not only writing your 5 things you're thankful for, but then writing what you're worried about, putting that out there, what you're worried about for tomorrow, what you're worried about from what happened today. And then literally writing to yourself, okay, so these are these worries and I'm giving them to God. God, they're yours, like writing this down. And I will think about this later tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Telling your brain what it's going to do so that it doesn't take on those things. And then writing, this is my time for sleep. I'm going to get great deep sleep. I'm going to get great REM sleep. Really talking your brain back into what is supposed to happen. It's kind of like what athletes do before they have a race. They visualize it and they know what's going to happen. You're going to do the same thing with your sleep. So taking a couple of minutes to do that before bed is super impactful. I have overall a principle that I use with people called 3-2-1. So 3 hours before bedtime, you stop eating. 2 hours before bedtime, you stop drinking. Now you can have a little bit of tea or some water with your supplements if you need to, but not a lot of drinking. And when I say drinking, I don't think anybody should be drinking alcohol. I don't think that any amount really is safe. And if you are going to do it, it needs to be special. But that's not what I'm saying when I mean drinking. I mean like any other water and things like that.
Right.
And
Because
then
you don't want your bladder waking you up, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And then 1 hour before bedtime, shut everything off. I put red lights in my bedroom. The phone is not next to my bed. There's no television in our bedroom, really setting everything low. And actually, I've taken that a step farther. And as soon as the sun goes down, which is early these days, I put my phone in grayscale. And if I'm still on my computer, I put that in grayscale because the colors specifically, but other parts of it as well, of our phones and our tablets and things like that are rewiring our brains and they're keeping us turned on and tuned in. So we have a hard time falling asleep and staying asleep. So turning everything to grayscale and then an hour before bedtime, really shutting everything off. So it's time for reading, it's time for journaling. I do like a red light mask on my face, or I had endometriosis, so I do a castor oil pack on my stomach and lay there, like trying to get things to slow down as much as you can. So 3-2-1.
Yeah, that's so important. And even those those blue lights and things, they can stimulate cortisol. Or if you're checking emails or you're watching a show or a movie that is stressful, you're like spiking all these stress hormones, adrenaline, epinephrine. I remember I watched a really crazy movie recently, late night. I was pumped up. I could not go to bed afterward. I was like, what was I thinking? But that is what happens. Your physiology responds to what your brain is seeing and all that stimuli. And you're not going to have a good night's sleep at all for that.
The healthiest jobs, like the people who their careers, is a shepherd. And when you think about what a shepherd does, first of all, they walk all day. God bless them. Like, that's perfect. They're outside in nature. Like, that's amazing. They're caring for other things, all of that. But they're also waking up and going to bed with the sun. And I know that we don't live in a world where we can really do that much, but the more that we can, the better off we're going to be. And actually, your good night's sleep starts first thing in the morning. So when you wake up in the morning, it's sun before screens. The first thing you should do is walk outside if you can. Even in the cold, I do this. Even with the snow, I do this. And get that first light, like the red and the yellow, so it regulates your circadian rhythms. It jumpstarts your melatonin production for 12 hours later. And then after you get that first light, then if you have to start your work or you have to look at your phone, that's when you do it, but not first thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about the cold since it's winter. I live in Michigan, you're in Pennsylvania, right? Like, it is so cold outside. And thankfully, I have a dog and she keeps me walking twice a day. She doesn't care. She wants to play in the snow. And I can tell that it makes her feel better. It makes me feel better just having that cold, invigorating response for 10 or 15 minutes in the morning with the sunlight, even though it's gray sunlight, it's still sunlight, right? Yeah. We need that, don't we?
We do. I have such I was going to say love-hate relationship with winter, but no, really it's a hate-hate.
I ski so that I don't totally hate the snow.
I'm from Southern California. I have a Instagram page called Sand Everywhere Family. Like, I moved to Pennsylvania. I moved to the cold for QVC, and God led me there. And he said, that's not what we needed to be. So that's what we've done. But even 13 years later, I'm still like, really? I live here? The only way that I survive winter is to get outside. First of all, you need to be in nature. There's lots of science behind that as well. So if you're stuck inside for 4 months and you're not going outside, that has a detrimental effect on you. You need to get the different light, the exercise that happens when you go outside. So for myself and for my family, we've really tried to reorganize our lives to be able to get the gear, get the right jackets and the hats and the gloves and, try snowshoeing and try skiing and go sledding and walk the dog and all of those things. The biggest excuse that I hear is, it's too cold, I can't go outside. But there is gear for that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to make the hard decisions. This is where it goes back to that mindset change. Life is never really promised to be easy. So you have to make the decisions that I'm going to invest in the gloves and the long underwear and the stuff like that so I can get outside and do it. So you will feel better.
Yeah, there's no point in fighting it, especially if you live in a cold place. Make the most of it. We are called to find the joy in the trials and the tribulations. I would argue that living in Michigan is a very big trial. I mean, it is a test every winter of like my mental health and my physical health. Am I just gonna hunker down and have a pity party for 4 months about how depressed I am and how much weight I'm gaining and how tired I feel? Or am I going to fight against it? And am I going to get outside, put the stuff on, and go make the best of it, right? So I hear that every day in my medical practice. Women are just like, it's too cold, or, I can't, there's nowhere to go outside. I call BS on that. It's an excuse, and we're called to live differently, right?
In all of the things that we talk about, whether it's how you eat, how you move, how you sleep, loneliness and relationships or lack thereof, you can make decisions. You have some, I don't like the word control because the only one who has control is the Lord, and that's not even a word that's from him, but you have some ownership in this. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions. Sometimes getting well and feeling well looks like investing in warm clothes. It looks like setting up boundaries with somebody. It looks like changing your job. It looks like reorganizing what you do in the evening so you can get to bed earlier. It looks like giving up sugar. It looks like giving up alcohol. All of these are hard things. And you sometimes have to make these decisions in order to get well.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we just have to reframe that life is happening for us. We're an active participant.
Yeah.
Our tiny little choices all throughout the day, every single day, is what creates our life. And if we continue to make the same choices and show up in the same way, we're going to continue to have the same result and the same future, right? So,
absolutely.
Oh my goodness. I love all of this so much. So tell women where they can follow you, how they can work with you. I can't stress this fact enough that we need other people to help us in life. What I'm seeing is that we're all trying to do it ourselves. We're trying to push the boulder up a hill with this heavy backpack on by ourselves. We're not asking for help. That's not how God created us. He created us to help each other, and he gave you the gift of being inspiring and motivating, and the gifts of coaching women and helping them shift their life, right? So tell me all the ways women can benefit from working with you and how they can get a hold of you.
Well, I love anybody who can contact me, reach out, follow along. I have a newsletter that I send out, so please sign up for that at Kerstin-Lindquist.com is my website. I'm most active on Instagram. Kerstin Lindquist, that's where you find me the most. So follow me there, get to my website. I have a couple of books coming out along with Zondervan and HarperCollins in 2025 and 2026. And I have a couple of books already out, so you can always find those. And then I have a podcast called Stressed, Strest. So it's all about moving from stress to rest. It's health science meets biblical truth. So find me wherever you find your podcasts.
Yes, you guys have to follow her. Love her Instagram. You're so inspiring. I love all your posts. And I was just on your podcast, and I think it was a really awesome episode.
So good. And I'm going to have you back. I'm going to have Dr. Tabatha back because she needs a second because we did not have nearly enough time.
I know we never do, but that's what I love about the podcast is you can pause it, you can come back to it later. You don't have to take it all in one sitting, right? So
that's so true.
Gosh, I appreciate your time so much. I can't wait to see what you do in the next year and with your book launches, and just keep being obedient because what the work you're doing is so powerful.
Thanks, you too.
All right. I hope you loved that episode. I just adore Kirsten. I think that she's awesome. And one of the golden nuggets I took away from that was when you journal before bed, write down your worries, write down what you're concerned about, write down the stuff that you didn't have time to process for the day, And then tell your brain you're going to handle it tomorrow and that you're going to give it over to God. Let your brain know that you're ready to rest and you don't want to deal with that when you're sleeping, because honestly, that is a big reason why you may be waking up in the middle of the night, is that your brain is trying to find the solution for the ongoing problems that you have. And if you tell your brain, hey, we're going to work on this tomorrow while I'm awake, it's okay to just sleep and do some restoring and reparative work and just let me get into a deep, beautiful sleep, that will start to shift. So please try that. That's an awesome tip from her. I love that so much. Now, follow her on Instagram, check her out, and go listen to the podcast that I did on hers, on her Stressed podcast, because it was an amazing episode. And you need to know all of this stuff, right? So let's figure out how to just implement all the stuff that you learn and actually make these shifts in your life. So go out, have an amazing week, and be Christ's hands to serve. That's what we're called to do. And remember that taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's actually a beautiful gift to give to the people that you love so that you can continue to show up for them and take care of other people, because you are your best version of you. So I'll see you soon.